Live from our studios in Wellesley, Massachusetts, it's In the Weeds with Jimmy Young. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a historic live stream on the Cannabis Multimedia Network. I am your host, Jimmy Young of In the Weeds, and we are having a very special show with a very special guest coming up in just about a minute. Remember that marijuana, cannabis sativa, CBD, these are the buzzwords of 2019. What does it all mean, and how do you get it into food? Well, that's why we welcome in one of the mass cannabis, the word is cannabis, Jimmy. Say cannabis. Thank you. And that's why we welcome in one of the mass cannabis chefs to our studio. His name is Joe Nelson. That's coming up next on In the Weeds. Don't look now, but it's a whole new world of weed out there. Pot is flower, it's Bruce Banner and Blue Dream. You've got bongs and dabs, resin and shatter, vaping and edibles, new terms, new strains, and new ways to use cannabis sativa, the plant. Some just made with CBD, and hemp has minimal THC. There's sativa and indica strains, and 100 chemicals, all legal in 10 states for adult use. There's a lot to get to know. Get used to it, folks, because it's legal in the Bay State and it's not going away. Neither is In the Weeds with Jimmy Young next. Revolutionary Clinics is just one of 49 medical cannabis dispensaries in Massachusetts, but there's a reason why it's one of the most popular. It's their patient-first philosophy. All day long, they teach, they educate, they communicate about this complicated plant called cannabis sativa. That's true whether you visit their Cambridge location in Fresh Pond at 110 Fawcett Street or at 67 Broadway in Somerville. Revolutionary Clinics, where the patient comes first. All right, this In the Weeds podcast with Jimmy Young is available on iTunes, on the Cannabis Multimedia Network. It's also available on Audio Boom, and of course the clnsmedia.com website. A video version is available on the Weed Tube, and of course that video version will also be on the Cannabis Multimedia Network. This edition is a little historic because we are streaming this live. And we are certainly very happy to have a very special guest in studio. His name is Joe Nelson of the Mass Cannabis Chefs. Joe, thanks for coming out here on a Friday.
Hey, Jimmy. How you doing?
Very good, very good. And so tell me a little bit about the Mass Cannabis Chefs. What does that mean? And you've been doing this, having these infused dinners for about 2 years now.
A little over 2 years, almost 2.5 years at this point. As the Mass Cannabis Chefs, me and my partner, we host, the way we like to put it, is one of Massachusetts' premier infused dinner parties. So twice every month, we, in different location with a different menu, we host a private dinner party where people can choose to have their food infused if they'd like. It's a lot of fun. We've, like I say, we've been doing it for a little over 2 years now. It's been an evolving thing. It's changed a bit since the first one. There's a whole lot of lot more structure to it these days than there was back then, I'll tell you.
I bet you were winging it in the beginning, and now
we didn't have a staff in the beginning. We served 22 people at our second dinner with just me, my partner, and a dishwasher.
Yikes! So that's a lot of work.
That was terrifying. Let me tell you. Thinking about that now, I want to cry.
Let's talk about the infusion process and how you go about making sure that you're not putting in an amount of either THC and CBD into a piece of food that could cause distress. Because I think that's one of the neat things about what you do is you talk to every guest you serve, correct?
Oh, yeah. So at the beginning, so when we make food, when we cook our meals, everything starts uninfused. Everything is cooked, not infused. Nothing's infused until like the point of a point of sale, is the way we kind of put it. But the point of where every dish is made and every dish is on the table and it's being infused in something that's going onto the plate. If there's going to be an infusion even at all, since we offer the sliding scale of infusion that we offer, at the beginning of every meal, I go out to the guests, and once everybody comes in, everyone's sitting down, everyone's got their assigned seats, or not their assigned seats, but the seats that become their assigned seats for the rest of the night, once they sit in them. I have a conversation with everybody and just like talk about edible infusion and how eating cannabis affects people and how people kind of this idea that they push, people like to push themselves, and just there's just the whole spiel that I go through where I kind of just describe what the process where we offer the levels of infusion. Basically, you and whoever you're with.
Right.
I'll give you an example.
Pretend it's me.
All right.
Okay, because
so
I'm not afraid of admitting that I have a little history with the product.
Just a little bit, Jim.
Yes.
Right. So you're at dinner. I'm talking to you, and I'm saying, thanks for coming. We've everybody is different when it comes to cannabis. Your dose of cannabis would maybe different from the person sitting next to you or the person sitting across from you. Doesn't matter how much you smoke. It doesn't matter how big you are, how old you are, how small you are, whatever. I've had people double the size of me, triple the size of me that have a much lower tolerance than I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then girls smaller than me that can handle way more than I can.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an individual thing. It's very much personal to the person and how your body handles cannabis.
Now, and is that are you specifically talking about the edible process?
Yeah, specifically edibles. Specifically
Okay.
edibles. There's minimal correlation to people come to me very often and they're like, I smoke every day. I dab all the time. That does not mean you have a high edible tolerance. That is just not. It's not the same.
It's because the chemicals are being ingested
and it
differently, and it changes.
Your kidney or your liver. I always forget which one, but one of them processes. Jim remembers.
It's the liver.
And Jim remembers. The liver processes the THC, and it turns into delta hydroxy some odd chemical that's 6 to 10 times stronger than basic THC.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have an experience with edibles, then you don't have a baseline to work off of at this point. Like so what's
the minimal amount that you put in?
Like 3 to 5 milligrams we give people over a whole meal.
Over a whole meal.
Over a whole meal.
Yep. Okay.
And
It's 2.5 milligrams. I've been told by the nurses and doctors in the medical community is the entry level dosing.
Yeah, that's like 3 milligrams.
Okay.
That's our rough low. That's like
that's
our low
the lowest.
Dose.
Right.
That's our low dose because we'll generally give that to somebody though. Also, like in their first course, if I'm going to give them a 3 milligram dose, I'm going to give that to you in the beginning of your meal.
Mm-hmm.
So for multiple reasons though, which I'll come back to. I want to continue with our
interview, the intake session.
No, 100%. I want you want to understand how this is
Yep.
going to work. So I want to make sure we get that. So I would have that conversation about how things are different, and I would give a couple forewarnings as to don't hear everyone else around you and think that now because you heard them and that they're getting a higher dose that you should now get a higher dose too because you think that that's the thing to do.
Don't keep up with the Joneses.
Don't keep up with yourself.
Right.
Keep up with yourself and yourself only, because I've seen too many people come to dinner and overjudge what they can handle, and then they're having a bad time, and I'm having to tend to that, and I have no problems tending to that. We can help you. We do have
straight CBD.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Unlike alcohol, there is a mediator. It's not a cure. I tell people that all the time. Like, this is not a cure-all.
But
it's not going to fix it.
It'll bring you back down to where you can control
It'll help you to calm down and maybe like fall asleep and not be freaking out anymore.
Right.
But you can totally get to that point. I did it to myself the other day, and I have a pretty high tolerance. So the fact that I did it to myself the other day and got myself that high, I wasn't freaking out, but I got myself to the point where if I wasn't used to edibles and wasn't used to the feeling that I was feeling, that I probably would have been freaking out a little bit. Because I was really high.
Hydration, obviously, very important.
Very important. Hydration's important. A lot of people will try to bring like a little wine or beer to dinner because we'll allow them to bring it. I'm not going to serve it to you, but if you choose to bring that, that's your own prerogative. You're an adult. You can make that choice. I don't tell adults what they can and cannot do. That's why the cannabis is an option if they want it. You don't have to get cannabis in your food. You can just hang out with, if you like a cannabis environment, you like hanging out with like-minded people, and you just want to eat a really good meal. Trust me, the food's worth it. Every penny. We had a guest come the other night. He's like, I've spent $400 or $500 on dinner in New York at these fine dining restaurants, and he's like, the food was as good or better than any of those I've ever been to. And we don't charge that much money, so that was like
That's
was
good.
like a super high compliment what we heard from us for us the other night.
I'd pay $400 for it, but I'm really glad I didn't.
Yeah,
right? That's right.
He didn't mention that. Like,
That's right.
I just know that
Right.
hey, we don't charge that much, so maybe
I get you.
someday.
So
But,
you're taking intake. You're finding out what the individual's history is
Yes.
with the product.
So after that conversation, I would go around the group. This is like a group conversation that I would have, and then I would come around and have an individual conversation with you and ask, so do you know what dose you would actually like to have with us tonight? And if you do not, what do you eat edibles at all? Like
Right.
a lot of people will eat edibles but don't know dose because they're making edibles at home with their trim or with just the buds that they get at home or whatever. So I have a conversation and I ask them, do you make edibles? Like, if you do eat edibles, do you make them yourself? Yeah. What are you putting into it?
Right.
What are you making?
Yep.
What are you putting into it? How many pieces are you cutting it up with? And I'm like taking notes and doing math in my head. I have a calculator with me and I'm doing rough math based on average numbers of things and kind of getting a ballpark idea for some of these people of what they normally intake so we can kind of get an idea of it. And since with those people, we put them in a group where we would definitely spread it out over time so that I can by like the halfway point, I can check in with these people,
Right.
see where they're at.
Because there's a delayed reaction
Yeah, exactly.
when you're ingesting it.
100%.
It could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 90 minutes sometimes.
100%.
Right?
Give us
And
90
is that
minutes
why you
yesterday.
spread out your courses over like four different stages?
Four
Four
different courses,
stages.
4
Yeah.
to 5, sometimes 6. It depends on the meal.
Yeah.
We try to not do 6, but sometimes it has to happen because it's what we want to do.
Yeah.
And
it takes time. I mean, I would guess from the beginning, if you arrive at 6 o'clock and dinner's served at 7:30,
usually.
The entire dinner you're done by 9:30.
No, longer than that. We're done by like 11.
So it's a long night.
Oh, this is an event. This isn't just a quick meal. We don't run under an American serving style. We run under a more European serving style.
Gotcha.
In Europe, they're not in there for like working for tips.
Yep.
They make a livable wage as a service staff. So they don't care how long you stay. They take their time cooking and making sure
turning the table. They're not turning the table
they don't
3
care
times.
They don't care about turning the table. They don't care. Like they're like the restaurant. Like they
want a dining
at a
experience,
restaurant. You're
yeah.
there for 2 hours. 2 hours is an average dining experience in Europe. We go a little longer because we have a full coursed out meal.
Gotcha.
But we're serving 25, 30 people, and I'm trying to put together all those plates, plus have it infused individually for each person.
That's what amazes me, and that's why I love the fact that we're here talking about it, because I really respect the fact that you take care in each individual's usage and history of the product, because
it's important.
Of course it's important. We are dealing with an adult use product here.
Facts.
That's why it's now legalized in Massachusetts, and why I preach responsible use of this product.
I do as well.
Because you can
you can overdo it.
You can overdo it, and luckily now I think a lot of people have learned, including yourself, it sounds like, the importance of using a straight CBD product that can control the buzz, if you will.
Well, we have one of our so for our infusions, right? I'll put this out there for the people out there who think, oh, this kid's doing something illegal out here. We're not doing anything illegal.
It's a private party, first of all.
First of all, private event, private location, so consumption laws, okay there. We work with local growers and extractors as sponsors for our events, where we're given the infusions for our meals to be done. Like I said earlier, all of our food comes to dinner uninfused. Nothing's infused until after we have the conversation, as we just discussed.
Right.
And then if you decide that you want infusion, it's not put into your food until that course is made. So the very similar to the model that a lot of large events will use, where you go to the event and like it's sponsored by a beer company. Sam Adams and Budweiser do them in Boston all the time, where they sponsor these events. They'll have a little booth set up, and it's like open bar. You come and get as much beer as you want throughout the night if you want it. If you don't want it, you don't have to drink it.
Right. And the Boston Wine Festival is very successful at the Boston Harbor Hotel. I've been there many times. Chef Daniel Bruce does a great job.
Yeah, that's that's a little different of an event, I think, than what I'm speaking of, just because the idea it's
a
selling,
sit down. It's a sit down meal.
Yeah.
That,
then you can or cannot have. Okay, I was thinking about
pass. You can pass on the wine. There's
Yeah.
usually 6 glasses there
that they offer.
That they offer you 6 different varietals.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah,
We're gonna hang out more, Joe.
Yeah, we do. Let's go eat. Let's go eat, Jim. I like good food. Let's go into Boston. There's lots of good stuff.
So you're doing individual infusions based on the person's individual history with an edible product, and if they do not want that edible product, they can say, "Please don't infuse my food."
Yep, 100%. Don't infuse my food. Some people just want to sit. Some people don't like edibles. They like cannabis. They like to smoke. They like to dab
or
whatever,
or vape,
or whichever way they like to do it. They like that.
Yep.
They don't like edibles. But they want to be able to eat their meal and be in that environment and be like at our dinner table. I've seen probably upwards of $10,000 worth of glass on the table, like just like expensive glass pieces and things on my dinner table.
Nice.
Yeah, there's been very probably more. Actually, I'm thinking back on one night in particular, and there was probably more than that on the table, and that's just a terrifying thing for me as a chef, knowing that my guys are out there serving food around that. But
that's the crystal, I'm guessing, or the
that's like the rigs and everyone's bongs.
That is not that kind of
that kind of glass.
I get it now.
The rigs and the bongs and the whatever.
They are, and you actually bring glass blowers into some of your events.
Well, almost all of our events have some form of art going on, live art. We have had music in the past. We've had painters going on, but mostly it's glass blowing for us. Since 420 last year, we had this group of 3 kids that have kind of become our in-house glass blowers, younger up-and-coming glass blowers, Messy Glass, Jazz Glass Art, and High Hop Glass, all out of the South Shore.
Now, are they making pipes while they're there, or are they
all sorts of things?
The rigs, the whole thing,
everything. Yeah,
and there's some really intricate stuff.
They've done some really cool things. One of the things they like to do is they raffle off pieces. So like, what they were doing originally was they were making a piece that night, and then you were watching them make the piece that they were raffling off.
Oh, that's cool.
That was becoming
popular.
Well, not even that, but yeah, it was really cool. It's really cool. It's really hard to do that in one night.
Right.
To finish something in one night when you rush things.
Yeah, things
errors happen.
Right.
They had a piece that completely like fell apart after it was like made, so they had to remake it. You know, because of something that they probably could have avoided if they weren't rushing to finish it. And so now what they do is they'll work on the piece that they're going to raffle off for the next dinner.
Gotcha.
So that they're just taking their time, they're getting it done. If they need to finish it later, that's fine. It can be done more work later. And that way they're still getting the show. They're still getting them working on glass blowing. They're still making something. They're still doing what they do. But now it's just a bit more of a controlled environment, a bit more of a controlled experience for them anyway.
And you do. You told me about 2 of these a month.
2 every month, plus private events when we get hired for those as well.
And of course, you can find out about it at masscannabischefs.com.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Oh yeah.
I just want to make sure we get a lot of plugs in here for you, Joe.
Masscannabischefs.com.
I told you I'd want you on. I want to talk to you about it because I love this idea. There's so many foodies have become, a term, and since for years when I worked at New England Cable News, the Phantom Gourmet started there, and then TV Diner was there with Billy and Jenny, who have now moved over to Dining Playbook at Nesson, and foodie has become, a term of endearment in many ways because people like to find new restaurants. And where's your training, or is it just self-taught? Tell me.
So me and my partner both,
let's tell you who your partner is. We've now mentioned him a few times. Can we give him a name? Because he has a name.
My partner is Chef Patrick Mulcahy. He's an amazing chef. Is the only person that I who when this idea happened and it was like, okay, well, I need someone to do this with me, and I knew I couldn't do it alone. And he was the immediate call. I called Pat. I was like, yo, man, I have this idea. Let's do this. And yeah, so we've been like I said, we've been doing this almost 2.5 years now. I've known Pat and worked with Pat for years. Before that, he was one of my chefs actually. We met dabbing in a basement.
Of course you did.
Of the restaurant.
Of
the restaurant we worked in.
Of
the restaurant we worked in.
I understand. No, I understood, and I totally get that.
That was how my first day went working there. It was okay. We're gonna go downstairs and smoke now. I said, what? We're gonna do what? We're gonna go downstairs and smoke now. I said, all right. Went downstairs. There was a rig in the basement. It was great. Yeah, it was good times.
So the training for you.
Okay, so me, I started cooking when I started cooking for myself when I was very young. My mom's a terrible cook. she'll be mad at me for saying that on air, but my mom's a terrible cook, and so I had to learn early how to cook things.
Yeah.
And how if I wanted things to taste
better,
I needed to do it myself, and I needed to learn. She cooked a couple things well, but like that was it. She could cook like a few things.
Right.
But that got boring for me. I was like a varietal eater when I was a kid, but I was also picky, so it was like I needed to be able to do things for myself. So I figured it out pretty early.
Did you eat vegetables as a kid, Joe?
Some, not a lot.
Yeah,
I don't think any. I like vegetables these days. I eat a lot of vegetables that I never would have eaten when I was a kid. Yeah. Like I eat Brussels sprouts. I love Brussels sprouts these days. They're so good, Jim.
They smell so bad.
I'm gonna cook you Brussels sprouts, and you're gonna eat them, and you're gonna love them.
Well, I'm gonna bring my pal along with me because she loves crispy.
Yeah, that's the only way to make them. Only way to eat. If your Brussels sprouts aren't cooked until they're crispy, then they're not cooked. I'm sorry. All right, if they're not cooked until they're crispy, in my personal opinion, they're not cooked.
There you go.
So personal training, I started in. I was 16 and maybe 15. 15 when I started there. I was 16.
10 years ago.
Oh, fuck you, Jimmy. 14 years ago.
Okay.
I guess.
All right.
So I was 15. I was definitely 15. So because it's 15 years now that I've been cooking. So I was working at a Bertucci's. No, I was working at a Bertucci's doing takeout. And on Sunday mornings, it was like the thing. I was a Sunday morning guy. I would do the to-goes or whatever. Very slow Sunday mornings, if you would believe.
Yeah.
But I would watch the pizza guy next to me, like, doing all his prep for the day and making pizzas for, like, the lunch rush because people would come in and get pizza for lunch. Where I was at, it was a good location for that. And I just like watched him every day until I just kind of knew how to do everything that he was doing over there. I could just like see it. I'd ask him questions because I was bored. When I had nothing to do, I'd help him out or whatever. So one night they were down a guy on the line, and I was just like, "Hey, I can do that. You don't need to like call somebody. Okay. Like I can do that."
Right.
And I was like, "You don't need to train me. Like I can do that."
Yep. Jumped right in.
They're like, "Yeah, I did it," and I've been cooking ever since. That was like my first foray into like, cooking of any kind. So Italian food was the first thing I ever made. This was years ago too, before Bertucci's got more corporatized and more crappy. Their food's not so good these days.
Yeah.
Everything kind of started changing towards the end of when I worked there. I worked for that company 2.5 years, and they were a great company when I started working for them. The food was like delicious. Everything was kind of scratch made. That all really started changing later on when I was there, and I was just kind of.
So, what was the next step beyond Bertucci's?
So the next step beyond Bertucci's, where did I go?
Because you were making.
I worked at a bunch of different, just like pubs and just different places where I learned how to work on a line, which I think is one of the most important things working in a restaurant is learning how to actually work in a restaurant kitchen efficiently and being able to cook at a fast pace and still put out a consistent product that's of the standard of the quality that the product is supposed to be put out.
Yep.
Like standardized cooking, like that's very important, and that's something that cooking schools don't teach anybody. That's like what you don't learn in a culinary school.
Gotcha.
So what got me into ending up wanting to go into more like fancier styles and things like that. I was living in the city, and I found a job. Do you know Box 109 in Newton?
Yeah.
Newton,
Hotel Indigo. Yeah, I've been there many times.
I worked there.
It was a Holiday Inn, and it wasn't so nice back then. Let's just say.
Okay. Well, Box 109 was at one point was like a very high-rated restaurant in Boston, in the Boston area. Yeah. And I worked there. I worked there for a while, not too long, but I worked there for a little while. It didn't work out, but it didn't work out because I wasn't ready for that environment yet. It also didn't work because the people I worked with were snobs, and everybody was either in culinary school, freshly out of culinary school, or like on their way, or externships or whatever. And I had nothing like that. I was all just self-taught, like or
experiential learning. We call that.
I was an experienced learner.
Right.
They were.
It's the best way to learn, by the way.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's how everybody learned how to do everything back in the day. If you think about it, before there were schools, people just took on apprentices,
right?
And that's how you learned your trade. You were an apprentice. If you wanted to be a head chef, you started at the bottom of the barrel and you learned from a head chef, from like a top chef at a restaurant, and you worked for him or whatever. That's how I learned a lot of things. I worked for a lot of great chefs over the years that taught me a lot of really cool things, and that was the first foray into like really fine dining and like learning just different things. And it's the first time I learned about microgreens. I'm obsessed with them these days.
Explain what a microgreen is. Go ahead, because I have no clue.
A microgreen is they take a bunch of seeds and they grow. They literally certain greens, say like arugula or broccoli or mustards or things of that nature. Before there's the fruit that you know of from those things, they just have little sprouts. There's just a little sprout that comes out that packs a lot of flavor and nutrients and everything in that little sprout, because it's got all the nutrients for life at that point in that little sprout, plus all the flavor of what that would be, because it's fresh out of the seed, fresh out of the ground. And you grow them till they're 2 inches tall, roughly, sometimes a little less than that. And you use those. So if you look at any of our dishes online, you'll see microgreens on damn near every dish that I put out, because I'm obsessed.
I'm looking.
Oh, no, they're not. I mean, pictured. You'd have to see the pictures.
Oh, I'd have to see the pictures.
They're not always in the menu. They're just like a garnish, a little added thing that I put on, and
it's a little touch. It's a signature.
It just looks pretty. Yeah. It looks pretty on a plate. Little bits of colored greens or whatever just look nice.
And on your site, you do have
all the pictures. I have pictures from pretty much every event that we've ever done.
And you've gotten some media too. I watched the Channel 5 stuff.
The mass marijuana special on Channel 5 that they did that was aired right after Chronicle originally. We've been in the Boston Globe a couple times. Write-ups in a bunch of other different.
Sensi, I think Sensi Magazine.
We were in Sensi Magazine at one point.
We all love Dan. It's okay to say that.
We
all love Dan McCarthy.
I'm a big fan of Dan McCarthy.
I'm a groupie.
I've followed Dan McCarthy's work from a while before Sensi Magazine. I'm a fan of a lot of local Boston.
And we're going to be doing May 29th. They're having another Sensi night down in Boston at the Royale, and we're going to be live streaming from there. We've done it before. They're a partner.
That was where I believe that's where we met, Jim.
Yeah, I think you were right.
Yeah.
Although I don't have a recollection of that. I just want to say
that was one
the first one.
Yeah, I think so.
The first one.
I think so. Yes.
The second one I worked, so I remember that one. What's your favorite thing to prepare? What's your favorite dish? I mean, I'm looking at some pretty cool things.
That's the toughest thing.
We got duck fricassee. I see a hanger steak, potato croquettes. I can't pronounce some of this stuff because I'm not Latin, Oh, I can do beet salad, but I don't eat it, okay?
Beet salad's delicious.
I know a lot of people feel that way. I do like Mandarin cheesecake tarts, though. That sounds really good.
Yeah, that's I like to cook desserts, man. I like to make the sweets. I like working on pastry.
You just did a pastry, didn't you? Pastry
different type of pastry.
Okay.
So not a different type of pastry. That night was focusing on different styles of pastry dough.
Okay.
Some savory, some sweet.
Yep.
A lot of European pastry dough. A lot of European pastry outside of France is savory. It's not sweet.
Gotcha. Well, I have a sweet tooth. I think we talked about this.
I do too.
I'm still waiting for that pie from the Freedom Rally.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Well, you didn't make
it
over
in too late. Well,
I told you when to be there, Jim.
You know I was losing my dabbing virginity, so I had a little trouble getting back, let's just say.
I believe it. I told you what time to be there.
I know.
The 1,000 milligram pie only lasts so long.
I guess not.
You should have seen the line the second day. It was absurd. There was a group of people there was like 60, 70 people just standing there waiting for pie.
Wow.
There was one pie.
I understand.
One pie. I had one 12-inch pie.
How many crumbs can you get out of that one pie?
I cut out pieces. I may have gotten 15 to 20 pieces out of that pie because I cut small slivers.
Right.
But
that's cool. That's very cool.
That's still only 15 to 20 people that got pie out of all those people who I had people on my staff who wanted pie who were angry that I didn't have
enough pie.
I was like, sorry.
Do you see a day where there'll be an infused menu alongside the regular menus in regular restaurants?
No.
Never will happen.
Maybe years down the line. First, we're going to see restaurants that are geared towards solely infused dining.
Okay.
I think that's going to be the first thing. It's actually one of the things we're working towards right now. Yep. But we're waiting for regulation.
Would that be a social club?
Of sorts.
Yeah.
Of sorts. It wouldn't be a social club in the sense that it would need to be privatized, though.
Once the license is delivered and once they figure out how they're going to do it.
Yeah, once they have licensing, I can't imagine that would have to be a privatized thing because it would be similar to like a bar,
Right.
where you go to drink.
Right.
You would just go to this place to
Eat.
or infuse to eat or vape. I probably would never be able to get a smoking allow. I don't know.
Not
where,
indoor buildings.
I don't know if they're going to give even unless with proper ventilation. But I don't know that they will ever really allow that again in Massachusetts without it being a private club.
Right. Don't forget, you do have cigar bars and you do have hookah bars that do inflame, or at least in the hookah bar, I guess they just heat it up to the point where it.
So it is a possibility. It's really going to depend on their regulation and what they give us when it comes down. I don't know what they're coming to right now. As we were kind of discussing earlier, they're at a weird spot right now, and I don't know what they're
over. I think they're overwhelmed in many ways.
Highly overwhelmed, and
but they're doing the best job they can. Steve Hoffman and I have had a great couple of talks about it, and Shalene is awesome.
I'm a big fan of Shalene.
She is like
big
champion.
fan of Shalene.
We are all champions of Shalene. But it isn't an easy job. They're writing history. They're trying to make everybody happy, and unless they
big business getting happy, and let's talk more about our local businesses being happy
and the inner city too.
Yeah,
which is once again they want to do social equity, and yet we have to have one in the inner city.
We have no social equity. Let's just they preach social equity hardcore.
Right.
They've allowed one small business retail license that I heard about, the
Caroline's.
Caroline's
in Uxbridge.
The only one,
right.
and in Uxbridge.
I know. Trust me, I lived in Mendon. I know where Uxbridge is.
I lived in Milford. I
yes,
know where
so
Uxbridge
you know
is.
exactly
But
where it is.
let me tell you,
there's not much else
there's not much underprivileged and underserved community out there.
Right.
That's a very limited underserved community, and you have to go to like Whitensville. It's a little further.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You got to go a little bit further out there to get some underserved.
Right.
But I mean, let's get something in the city where the people need it. In the cities where it's needed.
How, if you're doing 2 meals, I mean, it seems to me you need more. You can handle a lot more business.
Oh, I could do a whole lot more than that. It's not that easy to draw people out to more events than that, with the limited advertising that we're able to do, because that's one of the laws that that kind of screws us, because it's illegal to advertise for an event, for a public event where cannabis will be
served or used.
will be used,
consumed.
Well, where there will be consumption. Yeah,
right.
I guess
you can advertise a non-consumption event.
You can advertise non-consumption
and
events,
you can advertise a semi-private event, which is kind of what you do.
Which is what we do,
right?
But we kind of like toe that line, and that's as last I checked, that was a fine for the advertising of an event like that. And
so
we've always, it's just. We're careful there. We try to be anyway.
Right.
We try to follow the law the best we can. We follow the laws as they're written, but those laws change so often. It's really we just try to stay as up to date as possible. And
have you had any issues at dinners? You said a couple of people have kind of had.
We've had people get too high at dinner, but that's the only issue we've ever had.
And then you're able, and you provide first aid for them, if you will, CBD to bring them down and get them under control.
We have different forms of CBD. I have some sublingual CBDs that will be in a liquid form or just in like a fully activated.
So it happens right away.
Right. But then also have CBD vape pens to for a more immediate
first aid.
Hit this, you'll calm down.
Right.
It's a thing. It's totally a thing. It's something we work to avoid.
Right.
It's something we do our best to keep from happening. But it's totally something that's known to happen.
And I also know that the THC, the product, is gifted to you. So
from our sponsors,
all
from our sponsors.
Yep. And the other thing I know also that you do preach responsible use of the product and request people to either get cabs or have a designated driver, similar to alcohol. It's an adult use product.
Exactly. This is what I preached to the CCC when I went and spoke in front of them down in Barnstable County when they were doing an open hearing this past year. It was if adults can be expected to be able to go out to a restaurant and go out to a bar and drink and responsibly get home from there, and they're able to make adult decisions and drive there or not drive there, get there safely and get home safely, and understand that there are repercussions if they do not choose to follow the law and not choose to do that in a safe way. Why can't the same reasonable expectations be put out there for cannabis use?
Absolutely.
Why not? They said that there was going to be more high drivers. I'm sorry to tell you, the same people that were smoking while driving before are still doing it now, and the ones who weren't doing it before aren't doing it now. There's not going to be new high drivers, because let me tell you, most people I know are terrified to drive while high. Right. Most of the people I know who didn't smoke before and didn't smoke and drive like previous to this, who were like new to cannabis, they're terrified to drive while high, of like the mind state that they're in and like the way that they get. So I'm not advocating for smoking while driving. Like, don't take that as this is me advocating that. I don't need anybody coming knocking on my door for that one. I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying it's just a crazy concept. The idea that it's gonna there's now going to be so much more of this going on. No, people are going to be responsible, or they're not going to be. You know, you're going to have responsible people and you're going to have irresponsible people.
And it's all about education and learning your limits and understanding if I ingest this through an edible substance or a tincture substance, my body's going to react this way. If I vape it, it's going to react this way.
Which is why we have that conversation at the beginning, so that people kind of understand the difference there.
That's what really. I
was thinking about it and trying to think about how I would like talk to Uber about getting like a special code for like discounted rides for people or something, because they do it for other things. So I'm sure that there's like a way to get that, and then I could just have like an event code for these people where they just use, you know, if you want to come to dinner, you can use this event code.
That's a good marketing idea.
I'm going to have to reach out.
Good marketing idea.
That might be something.
I'm going to read to you something I spotted in one of my many newsletters that I get, and it has to do with CBD.
Yep.
Because, you know, for those who are learning about the different products, the CBD chemical is the non-intoxicating
the non-psychoactive part.
Well, no, it's interesting.
Because it is psychoactive.
Right, I learned that from the hempologist. He corrected me.
It is psychoactive.
Right, it has, absolutely, but it has
non-intoxicating.
Right, non-intoxicating, and you're seeing it more and more on every shelf everywhere. CVS and Walgreens are now going to be carrying it. So they surveyed, National Restaurant Association surveyed 77% of chefs, okay? And they said that CBD infused drinks was the top trend for 2019. What came in second? CBD infused food. So it's here now.
It's already happening in Boston. I'm an old chef of mine from years ago. This lady I worked for in South Boston, she actually works at I forget the name of the place. A friend of mine works with her in Boston, and they serve like CBD tea and coffee and such already. It's already like a thing, and they're doing CBD, like offering CBD infusions to their foods and things.
And in Maine and Ohio and New York, the local FDA inspectors have pulled a lot of that.
Yeah.
The FDA still can't get that public. They're trying to get a public hearing just to learn about CBD, and look, let's not get into politics because it just drives me crazy. There's enough people out there that know about this subject and product. Talk to them.
Seriously.
Okay? And stop looking for the negatives. You know, there's been 29,000 studies of cannabis over the years.
It's the most researched chemical in American history.
Because they're looking for reasons to not allow it. That's it. And they can't find it. They keep looking and looking and looking, and then you get once in a while you get a few things.
Yeah, they get a couple things, but then the research that they're doing when it is those few things, there's like other extenuating circumstances that go along with it. Like a lot of these people are talking about that one with like what is it, like I forget like the side effect, but it's like, you know, the people who are like getting sick from smoking too much or whatever. Right. Like there's that whatever disease. There's people. I also heard a lot of talk about that being like a pesticide thing, and like it being like, you know, not. Well, it's something that it's like an effect of certain pesticides and certain like things in the grow system and like during the grow, and it's like. Look, I smoke a lot of weed. Okay, I smoke a lot, Jimmy.
I'm shocked to hear that, Joe.
A lot.
Okay,
I've never been sick from
Ever.
Smoking weed.
Right.
I actually have like an insanely strong immune system. I don't get sick almost at all. Like,
because you have a strong endocannabinoid system that's activated.
Yeah.
You're the antibodies that are fighting off all forms of disease.
I just read a doctor's study the other day, which I thought was like really cool to see, because this is an idea that I've been talking about now for a while. I was on WBZ not long ago, and I was talking late night with.
Yeah. By the way, if you didn't smoke as much weed, you might remember who that host is.
I would remember who it was. I would remember.
I'm sorry. I couldn't resist,
That's
Joe.
okay, Jim. It's okay. regardless, I was there, and I just had the same conversation with him about it the other night. A lot of people talk about how cannabis is healing people or healing diseases and curing stuff.
There
right?
are anecdotal stories that are very, very powerful.
Yes, and this was first my speculation on this, and this is something that a doctor was talking about. The accredited researcher, I forget from a study I saw the other day, was saying the same thing. We have an endocannabinoid system,
right?
But 100 years ago, hemp and cannabis were pretty much eradicated from the world. Like legality-wise, were eradicated around the world.
I know
almost.
where you're going. Yeah,
eradicated. Right.
Right.
10 years ago, 15 years ago in America, we started allowing it back in different places around the country.
Yep.
The people are getting their cannabinoids are getting back into crops again. It's getting back in there where animals are eating it again. It's getting added back into the food cycle, the food chain in the world.
And the conclusion was?
The conclusion was, well, this is the conclusion that I drew was, if we're all adding this back into our system now, something that's been missing for so long, it's not necessarily that we're curing anything. We're allowing our body to then fight things off and do what it's supposed to do in the first place. Do what it's programmed and built to do, but we haven't been able to allow it to do because our endocannabinoid system has been neglected dormant for 100 years, 50, probably 60 years or so, that it's been just off in the human body because over by biology we grew in the world with cannabis as part of our food chain. The animals ate it, we ate the animals. We got CBDs and all the different latent chemicals from that through the food chain.
Yep.
This doctor essentially concluded the same thing. And essentially just had the same idea, is that it's re-adding it, and it's what's causing these miraculous cures. And it's less that it's a miraculous cure, and more so that it's just resetting your bodies and letting it kind of do what it's supposed to do.
It's a natural weed that's being put into your body that is waiting for it to be there because it reacts with the chemical compounds that are in it. Yeah. Israel's doing a whole bunch of research on that.
Israel's been doing research on that longer than they've been talking about to us about
That's right.
That's research on that.
Absolutely.
Let's just be real,
That's right. Let's talk about, I want you to give a couple plugs for your events. I see Blind Faith tickets available. And of course, when I see Blind Faith, I'm a child of the 60s. I think of Stevie Winwood, Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker on drums. That group was, but okay, it's not. Tell me a little bit about this.
When I talk about Blind Faith,
and this is May 11th and May 18th.
Yes, those will be our events in May. So Blind Faith, for us, we are the children of the music festivals. Okay,
yeah.
Music festivals, what they do, a lot of recurring festivals, they offer what they'll call Blind Faith tickets, where you don't really know anything about the event, you don't know who's going to be there, you don't know what's going to be going on, you just know you want to go.
Right.
And they offer discounted tickets at that point.
Gotcha.
So we do the same thing. We know what dates we're going to have an event. We're usually in the South Shore, not always, but usually in the South Shore, so you can have a general idea where we'll probably be. At least somewhat location-wise, but we're always going to be in Massachusetts, so it's never going to be too crazy.
Right.
But essentially, you buy your Blind Faith, you get Blind Faith tickets early before the menus are announced, and then before we've figured out what the menu is going to cost, what the event's going to cost.
Right. That's how you work out your per plate.
Per plate cost is all based on the food that we're serving.
Yeah. And what's the range? Give me the range again.
It's usually around $125 to $150 between there. It's
per person.
Per person.
Yep.
Okay. Is usually what it is. Our Blind Faith tickets are $100.
And $100 for the Blind Faith, and you can bring your own adult beverages too,
if you'd like to. Yeah, we have plenty of non-adult beverages: juice, soda, water, whatever.
Lots of water.
Yeah, tea, lemonade. We have all that stuff. Like we usually make like fresh iced tea and like fresh lemonade.
Nice. Do you ever put the cucumbers in the water?
We've done cucumber water.
That's nice.
What we did one time was we had a vegan night, and we did cucumber water in this like water receptacle we had, but we used CO2 in there, like dry ice.
Yep.
So it was like
smoking.
Yeah, it was so cool. it was really cool. That was back when it was back in the day. It was just neat. It was a cool visual.
So what would you like to see mass cannabis chefs become in the next year as word gets out that you're running private parties, gourmet meals? It's an event, it's a party, it's perfectly legal, it's controlled. more people to find out about you and get very busy. I'm going on a limb here, right?
Yeah, the more people that found out, I assume the more busier we will end up being, yes. Our target demographic, we're starting to hit more. And
baby boomers?
Yeah, a bit.
50 plus, 55 plus.
Yeah, you would the people that
I qualify. I know. It's okay. You can say it.
Yeah,
it's
you're
all right.
You're there, Johnny. Yeah, yeah. The right now what we've been getting, we've drawn off of our cannabis community, and that's like where a lot of our guests end up being from. And like, nothing against any of the people that come to see us. I love everyone that's come and been and joined with us. It's just where we put on for that crazy foodie crowd, and we've gotten more of the crazy cannabis crowd and not as much of the crazy foodie crowd, and that's where I think some of our menus miss the mark.
Yeah.
Because I put out menus that are more adventuresome than some of our guests are sometimes willing to go for.
Chocolate cake, burgers, and fries is fine if you're high.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. And I understand that a lot of people don't have that as wide of a range of a palate as I do, and aren't as adventurous as necessarily some of us are. And that's fine. That's why we offer different styles of meals. I would just love to be able to hit when I do put out a crazy menu. Like, we have ideas for things that we've wanted to do, and I'm just like, that people just aren't going to buy that.
Right.
Like, nobody's coming to eat that. It's just not going to happen. Like, I just don't see it. We've tried things like that in the past and not had good results.
Interesting. Well, that's trial and error.
So,
what's your favorite dish to prepare? And don't say everything.
I don't have a favorite dish to prepare, Jim.
Okay, so
I hate that question. That's my least favorite question to be asked in any interview.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your honesty and transparency.
I'll tell you that as well. Absolutely. Pat would give you an answer. I would.
What would Pat say?
Pat. Okay. You know what I'll say? I'll give my favorite thing for us to prepare is when we make ramen. I love ramen. I'm fully obsessed with ramen.
Wait, the ramen noodles?
Like Japanese ramen? Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, those packages are not real ramen.
Not real ramen, right?
Ramen is like...
My Cambridge executive producer.
Ramen is incredible.
Okay.
Traditional Japanese ramen is one of my favorite things to eat,
really?
Period. I'm a soup guy for sure. And traditional Japanese ramen is one of my favorite things in the world to eat. So I eat it sometimes 4 times a week and 4 or 5 times a week into some dinner, and it's
Is there an Asian influence in a lot of your stuff? Is it Middle Eastern?
No.
Is it?
So one of the things that we do is we do cultural nights.
Yeah.
All last year we spent one event every month was a cultural night where we choose styles of food we've never made before that we don't know, and I'll do buttload of research and reach out to people from that culture if I know people or have connections to people of that culture, and ask questions and like learn about the food and come up with a menu that was
I love live TV.
It comes up with a menu that would be based that you would find if you went to that culture and went to that country and ate some food there. We tried very hard not to do Americanized versions of things. We try to do things as traditional as possible. Or I'm a stickler for tradition. My partner is the more creative one in that aspect, where he'll take things and twist them around. We had a standing agreement that if we're gonna do something, we got to do it at least once the traditional way, and then we can tweak it and toy with it and do whatever. As long as we can do it to the traditional way and know that we can do it right the traditional way, I'm okay with toying with it and doing it another way. But if I can't do something the right way, the way that the dish was designed. A lot of these dishes go back 200 years, 300 years. They were done that way for a reason. You
are passionate about your trade, aren't you?
Very, very serious about my food. Yeah, that's
It's a quality. It's a great quality to have.
It's why I think people appreciate what we do and come back to eat with us. I take it so serious, and I'm able to usually go out there and like when we serve dinners and serve dishes, I have a conversation with all the guests as the food is served, and I explain what the dish is, what is on their dish. I usually try to have little anecdotal side pieces and little tangents about parts of the dish or history of a dish if it is like an older style food, or like you were speaking about the pastry dinner. Like I went through and spoke about the different types of pastries that were used, the pastry dough that was used in each dish, and like the history of the dishes, and it's just. It adds to the experience.
Right.
What restaurant do you go to where you've ever had someone actually explain to you what you were eating?
Right. Oh no, absolutely.
Where do you go when you actually get explained what your dish is and what's in it.
You can grill the waiter, the server, or the waitress. Certainly.
You can try, but you know what? They're not going to have as good of an idea as I would,
as the chef,
or me and my partner would. Like I'm generally the one that's out there talking to people. Or no, I'll rephrase that. I'm always the one that's out there talking to people because Pat's back there making sure the next course is getting ready. Yep. As we're serving, as food is being served.
Yep.
To you to eat, like we're back someone's in the back getting whatever ready for next course to be ready to go, so that while your plates are being cleared and getting ready, we're getting the next course plated up so it's ready to roll. It's a mostly well-oiled machine.
Yeah, it sounds. I know you're lubed and ready to go on this because you obviously love what you do, and anybody who is passionate about something gets an adrenaline rush when they perform, and you perform in the kitchen, do you not?
Yeah.
I mean, that's your symphony. That's your musical instruments
that's
in your
our
office.
Place for sure.
Yeah. And if you have a private home, you'll come into a private home and run a dinner party for them, correct?
That's actually where we work out of is private homes all the time. It's the only way we can do what we do at this point. Social consumption, the way the laws go at this point, is only allowed in private.
Right.
Private means private residences or like halls or things of that nature. Problem with halls is that generally they don't let you smoke inside. Right. Even VFWs, things like that. A lot of them they don't let you smoke in the halls.
Joe, I'm going on a limb thinking you've smoked a little outside before.
I've smoked a lot outside before, which is why we do our events the way we do them. Right. We do it at private homes, and we don't do it at private homes that have these like humongous halls in their home. I set up an event tents out in people's backyards.
Oh, cool.
So, think wedding event, like outdoor weddings that you've been to, and they have, the big 20 by 20s or whatever size tents. Yep. We have a bunch of different size tents, and we set up in people's yards. And everything's outside. All our tables are done up outside. If it's cold out, we have heaters.
Yep. Have you ever done a clam bake?
We have not done a clam bake yet. So the reason I have not done a clam bake yet was the same reason we didn't do a pig roast in the first year. I wanted to do a pig roast the first year, but we didn't want to do it without doing it on a spit. I wanted to do a spit roast. I don't want to do a grill pig roast. That's weak, in my opinion.
I hear you. If you're going to be authentic, if I'm going to do
it, I'm going to do it right. This past year, I had someone build me a pig spit that holds like 200+ pound pig. We did almost 180 pound pig this past year.
Wow.
It was absurd, and it was way too big, and I'll never do a pig that big again. Probably do 2 smaller pigs this year. But
piglets.
No, they'll be pigs.
Okay.
They'll just be killed earlier. They'll just be killed earlier in the season.
Gotcha.
Earlier.
Okay.
They won't be full grown.
I get you.
But the reason we never did a clam bake is because the only way I want to do a clam bake is if I'm going to dig a hole in the sand and cook it on the beach. And that's the only way I want to do it. So
the rough,
in the beach, in the dirt, I'm cooking clams and with coals in a big pit that I'm gonna dig in the ground. Yeah, it's the only way I want to do a clam bake. Otherwise, it's not worth it to do so.
Interesting.
That's
fascinating.
When I find the right location, somebody that has a spot on the water that wants to do something cool and have a clam bake, it's more of an all-day event than a dinner. Right. It's more of a we come there early in the day and we'll be set up and we'll be probably be there early the day before and digging and setting up and everything. And yeah,
very cool.
Like our pig roast was. I'm actually finding my location for the pig roast this year because I want to do a pig roast again this year.
All right.
It's going to be fun.
All right.
I'm going actually to talk to the people about it this weekend. So
fantastic.
Tomorrow night.
Well, Joe Nelson, Mass Cannabis Chefs. I'm so glad you came in. I'm dying to be at one of your dinners, I swear, and I appreciate you offering in the past, and I definitely will take you up on it at some point.
I hope you do, Jim.
I may want to be involved with that lobster in the rough thing, though, because that's my favorite food.
Yeah.
I grew up in New England and had my first lobster at age 4.
Well, we're going to be doing another seafood event soon. Even if it's not a clam bake, we'll be doing seafood again really soon. The summer is coming, and the pictures from our seafood nights have all been incredible, so I want to do more of it. So
fantastic. Hey, look, you know what? We only have a short summer and barely a spring these days, so it's time to get outside and have some outdoor cooking, and what better way to do it than with some controlled infusion?
For sure, definitely.
So give me the plug again on the website and how they can get to you.
www.mascannabischefs.com. You can go on there, sign up for our newsletter, find out about upcoming events, the ones we have coming up. This next weekend on 420, we have an event Friday night and Saturday night for anyone who's looking to join.
That's down in Carver.
Down in Carver.
Yep.
2 wonderful menus, different style kind of each night, but
and
yeah,
then
it's gonna be
you
wonderful.
let them know where exactly they're going within 24 hours of the event. Is that the idea?
Generally the night before the event, like
Yep.
late the night before the event, you'll get an email with the exact address. Because we do it at private residences, out of
Right.
a respect for the host's privacy and
Right.
like where they live, we don't need random people knowing
Wandering
where
in.
they live or what
Yeah.
it is.
We
It's
had
not
a-
a restaurant, you know.
Yeah, we had a crasher in my 50th birthday party. I
Yeah?
just want to say, got a free lobster out of the deal. I was like,
Yeah.
who's he with? I don't know. It's all good. We all had fun.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
still a great thing. Joe Nelson, Mass Cannabis Chefs, thank you so much again for coming in. Appreciate it. Joyce Gerber's the executive producer. Steve Helmuth pushes the buttons. And we had assistance from Jacob Spielberg down in Long Island world to help with the live stream. And Joe, there's only going to be the first live stream on the Cannabis Multimedia Network. So you are part of history, and I do really appreciate, again, you coming in today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim.
For everybody here at the Cannabis Multimedia Network, I'm your host of In the Weeds, Jimmy Young. And remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly and enjoy it.